Our objective today is translations, reflections, and rotations. And all of these fall under what is called transformations, which is a change in the size or position of a figure. So a translation is the movement or the sliding of a figure along a straight line. So you're either moving it to the left, or you're moving it to the right, or you're moving it up, or you're moving it down. A reflection is a transformation in which a figure flips across the line. So you're taking it and you're either flipping it across the y-axis or the x-axis of a coordinate plane. A rotation is a transformation in which the figure is turned about a point. So you're turning that figure all the way around. When it's on a coordinate point, if you turn it 90 degrees, you're turning it one quadrant. 180, it goes through 2 quadrants. And 270 goes through 3 quadrants. So then 360, you go all the way through 4 and you land back on top of the figure you started with. BIC number 1. A pre-image is what you start with. So the image that you start with is called your pre-image, which for example would be triangle ABC. Your prime image is the result of the transformation. So it's the result, whether you flipped it, you slid it, you rotated it, it's the image where it lands. And so that's written as triangle A prime, B prime, and C prime. BIC number 2, sorry. Translations. So you're either sliding the figure left or right. So if you do that, you would either add or subtract the number of units you move it from the x values. Or it goes up and down, and you would add or subtract the number of units from the y value. So let's look at an example. So we have translate triangle ABC, up 2 units and to the right 3 units. Name the ordered pairs. So we have triangle ABC, A is at -3, 3, B is at -2, 5, and C is at 0, 3. So first it says to translate it up 2 units. And we know that if we go up or down from BIC, since going up, that means we're going to add 2 units to the y value. So here, our y value was originally 3. We're going up 2 units, so now it's going to be 5. For B prime, it was originally 5. We're going up 2 units, so now our new y value is 7. C, we started at 3. We're going up 2 units, so now our y value is 5. Now, since it's all gone up, now we need to shift it to the right. Well, going to the right is positive, so we're going to add. Well, -3 was our original, and -3 plus 3 is 0. So our new x value is 0. -2 plus 3 gives me 1, and 0 plus 3 gives me 3. So now we have the coordinates of all 3 vertexes when we translated this triangle up 2 and over 3. So now we can graph it. So 0, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is A prime. 1, 7, so up 1, or over 1, up 7, so that's B prime. And C is 3, 5. So this is our new image where this was shifted up 2 and over 3. So let's look at VIC number 3, which is dealing with reflections. So it says in reflections, if you're taking that image and you flip over the x-axis, then the y values change to their opposite. So if all your y values are positive, now all your y values are negative. If you flip over the y-axis, then the x values change to their opposite sign. So if they were negative, they're now positive, and vice versa. So we have example, reflect triangle CDE over the y-axis. So we have triangle CDE, we have its coordinates. And we want to go over the y-axis. So we're going to take this and flip it over the y-axis. So this whole thing is going to end up over here. Well, it told us that we need to change, if we flip over the y-axis, change the x values to their opposites. So for C prime, the original x value was 2. So the opposite of 2 is -2. So now we have -2, 1. Since we're only flipping over the y-axis, our y values are not going to change. So now we have is going from 5 over to negative 5 because it's the opposite. So we now have negative 5, 3. And E, we're going from 3 to negative 3. So we have negative 3, 4. Now we have our points, we can graph it. So we have negative 2, 1 for C prime. We have negative 5, 3 for D prime. And we have negative 3, 4 for E prime. So when you connect the lines, you took this image and now flipped it across the y-axis. And we did that by changing all of our x values to their opposite sign. So now look at rotations. BIC number 4 says, in rotations, the figure will either rotate clockwise, which means it rotates to the right, or counterclockwise, which means it rotates to the left. So here, in our example, we're going to rotate triangle ABC clockwise 90 degrees. So we're going to rotate it to the right 1 quadrant. Because remember from your definitions, 90 degrees rotates this whole figure 1 quadrant. That doesn't mean it flips, it's actually turning itself 1 quadrant over. So we have that A is 1, 3, B is 2, 1, and C is 1, 1. So now, with a 90-degree rotation, our x and y values are actually going to flip spots, okay? And so if ours flip spots here, we have now 3, 1, 1, 2, and 1, 1. Because if we rotate this, this point at 1, 3 is going to rotate itself to this point right here at 3, 1. So what happened was that these flipped places. But not only did they flip positions, they also, the new y value becomes negative because we are in the bottom quadrant, we're in quadrant 4, and that is a negative y value. So this also becomes a negative 1, a negative 2, and a negative 1. Because we're taking this, moving it to the bottom, which is the y values are negative, and this rotates to actually flip your values. So when we get this, we have 3, negative 1 is A prime. 1, negative 2. So 1, negative 2 is B prime. And 1, negative 1 is C prime. And what you will notice is this was rotated around our origin so that they flip-flopped, and so it's continuing to rotate, but we only wanted 90 degrees, so we stop here. But the big thing, in a 90 degrees clockwise rotation, the x and y values switch places, and the new y value is the opposite sign of what you have. So we switched the places and gave all of these negatives because they were originally positives. So here is a very easy, the boards just fell, it's okay. Here's a very easy organizer to tell you what to do for every type of transformation. So if we are doing translations, that means we are sliding the figure. So if you want to slide it down, you subtract the number of units from your y value. If you want to slide it up, you add that many units to your y value. If you want to go to the right, you're going to add that number to the x value. If you want to go to the left, you add that many, or you subtract that many units to the x value. Reflections, that means we're flipping it. So if you want to flip it over the x-axis, you start with x and y, and when you flip it, your y value now becomes a negative y value, or the opposite of the opposite sign. So if it's positive, it becomes negative. If it's negative, it becomes positive. If you're going over the y-axis, the only thing that changes is the sign of your x value. So if it's positive, it becomes a negative. If it's negative, it becomes a positive. So it's the opposite signs. And And for rotations, that means we are turning the entire figure. So if you're turning it 90 degrees clockwise, so 90 degrees to the right, or 270 counterclockwise, so 3 quadrants to the left, then you start with your ordered pair X, Y. They flip locations, and the new Y value becomes a negative. If you're going 100 degrees, so you're going 2 quadrants, you just become the opposite signs. They don't flip-flop locations, the X and Y, they just become opposite signs. If you're going 270 degrees clockwise, so to the right, 3 quadrants, or you're going 90 degrees counterclockwise, so to the left, 1 quadrant, your X and Y values end up switching spots, and the new X value becomes a negative. And if you're going 360 degrees, you're going to go through all 4 quadrants, and the ordered pairs don't change because you end up landing on top of the figure that you started with.